So I just had an interesting customer service experience, and I kind of want to share it with you because it touches on professionalism and your due diligence when you're dealing with customers. The tires on the Mustang are thin. They're getting old. They're not showing any cord yet, but they will be soon if I don't replace them. So Friday I hopped online to a national chain of tire stores and ordered tires for my Mustang, paid for them, set up my appointment and everything. About a half an hour later, I got a call from the local tire shop, and they said, okay, we see that you placed this order for the tires, but we don't have those in stock currently. We should get them Sunday, but there's a chance we may not get all the tires, and then, we may have to delay your appointment on Monday. Okay, well, that's fine. And so this morning, the tire store opens at 8, and my appointment was 8:15, and I'm a half hour from the tire store. So at 7:45, I took a chance that there may be somebody there to answer the phone, and I called. And somebody answered, and I said, hey, I have an appointment, 8:15, I need my tires. Oh, yes, we have all your tires, come on in. Okay, so I drove to the tire store. Long story short, they got me checked in, and they have the rear tires and not the front tires. And just for reference, on the Mustang, I'm running a 255 45/18 up front and a 275 40/18 in back. And so it's not a common tire size. These are pretty big size meets for a street-driven car. But they didn't have all my tires. And they said, well, our FedEx truck comes at 10. We should have your front tires. We'll check and make sure, and then we'll call you back. We can get you in at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Okay, well, I drove a half hour from Choctaw, and they kind of blew off me saying that. All right, well, so here's an opportunity. The employee who made the mistake wasn't thorough in what he did, and he wasted my time, the customer's time, by not being thorough. That is a lack of professionalism. How should the manager handle it? Now, I don't want Jacob fired. He doesn't deserve that for what he did. He made a mistake. But the manager needs to take him aside and give him a little bit of counseling and say, hey, you wasted our customer's time. Now we've got to make this right with the customer. So, what are the manager's options for me? Well, the easy button that a lot of people, want to go towards is, oh, give me a discount. I don't necessarily need that. And honestly, they're already giving me a discount for being a veteran. So what can they offer that it doesn't cut away from their bottom line? Customer service. That's the biggest thing. If I go in this afternoon and they double team my car and get me out faster, is that going to make me happier? Yes. Do I really want to sit there for 2 hours while one technician replaces all 4 tires on my car? No. If they can double team my car and get me out in an hour, hey, I'm happy. It's worth the $10 of gas that I wasted going up there and back the first time for them to get me out faster the second time. Now, granted, I wasted a whole hour, and I'm not happy. I wasted $10 of gas, but they're at least making the motions and trying to give me a good customer experience now. That goes a ways towards making things up. And double teaming my car, it will cause stress with other people who have appointments if he has other appointments. That's you've already got one customer who's upset. You can mildly discomfort some other customers to make that customer happy, or there are other options too. But this brings to mind to me my previous career in aircraft maintenance scheduling. I was in the Air Force. I did what we call PS&D, planned scheduling and documentation. Planned aircraft maintenance. We looked at the flying schedule and saw what planes were available, what planes were needed maintenance, and then we scheduled to minimize the number of planes we had down, and then we made sure that the documentation was carried through on the maintenance that was performed, and we updated the schedules to reflect when the maintenance was going to be due again. Every day I had to go into a production meeting and I had to brief the commander on what we were doing. And if the commander had questions, I had to be able to answer them truthfully. Now, that doesn't mean that I was in danger of, it doesn't mean that I was going to lie to him. What it meant was I needed to know the answers and not guess at the answers. I needed to know them when he asked me the questions. And sometimes I could get by with saying, sir, I don't know that. I'll get back to you on that. But a lot of the time, for most of the basic stuff, I had a folder I took with me into those meetings, full of schedules, full of all sorts of information, so I could flip to a page and answer a question. And there were a lot of times I'd be a half an hour out from a meeting, and all of a sudden something would crop up, and I needed to be able to answer questions that would require an hour's worth of research. What do? Well, I had some other guys working with me. If I could pawn some of it off on them and me do some of it, and we could all come together with our answers, that was great. But I had to answer truthfully. And it went so far that whenever I developed, we had a PowerPoint that we displayed with what our information was that we were giving to the commander, so he could see it visually as well as us telling him what was going on. And I made sure we did not have any typos in that. I didn't want any misspellings. I didn't want the font to be, mismatched. I wanted it to look perfect and professional, because if my commander could see that I was that detailed and I kept that stuff straight, he would be more willing to accept what I was telling him. And I did the same thing with what I was telling him. I made sure that all the details were right because it mattered. I dealt in a lot with trust with my commanders. If you have a commander who doesn't trust you, he's going to make a lot more work for you, making you prove to him that you know what you're doing. I did have a commander for a while who, I had a boss who was trying to put me in my place in a way, and he would help he would go through and pick apart my schedule and then show the commander, oh, he did this, he did this, he did this, this is all wrong, it needs to be done this way. And that commander, he was an active commander at the time. He didn't trust what I was doing. Well, a few years later, this boss I had left, and I had grown significantly as a scheduler. And this commander called me out on something in a meeting, said, I don't like this, I think you've done this wrong. And I very politely said, well, sir, here's what the TO says, or I think it wasn't a TO, it was an Air Force regulation. I said, here's what the Air Force regulation says, how I'm supposed to do this. Here's my data, here's what I did. This is correct, this is correct. On this subject, I've done this, here's where we're at. And I answered him very thoroughly and correctly. And I did it in front of everybody else in the meeting, but I did it very politely. And he never called me out in a meeting again after that, because he understood that I was doing my homework and I knew what I was talking about. That's due diligence, and as a technician, you owe that to your customer. Be able to speak with authority. Don't hem and haw and, oh, well, I think. You need to do your homework so that you know and you can answer truthfully. So when the tire store told me this morning that my tires were ready and they weren't, that damaged my trust in their customer service. Hopefully, I get my tires this afternoon, everything's good, and they make it right. We'll see. Probably not going to do a follow-up video just for that, but I just want to talk about professionalism and customer service and developing trust with your customers. So hope you learned something from that.